Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Would the state call their next witness, please?
The state calls Rachel Thornton to the stand.
Rachel Thornton. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the trial of this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, please. And please state your name for the record.
My name is Rachel Thornton.
Good morning, Ms. Thornton.
Good morning.
Ms. Thornton, how are you employed?
I work for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation in the Division of Forensic Sciences known as the state's crime lab.
And how long have you been employed with the GBI crime lab?
I've been there for over 10 years now.
Okay. And in what capacity are you employed with the crime lab?
I am a forensic serologist.
Okay. And will you explain to the jury your background and education?
I have a bachelor's in biology from the University of Georgia. I had extensive in-house training with the GBI. That was approximately 6 months. We have lectures, readings, tests, and mock samples that simulate actual casework samples.
Okay. What are the duties of a forensic serologist?
As a serologist, we screen evidence from local and state agencies for bodily fluids that include blood, semen, and saliva.
And approximately how many cases have you been asked to perform that analysis?
Oh, by now it's probably over 1,000.
Okay. And have you ever testified as an expert in the superior courts of this state?
I have, yes.
Approximately how many times?
About 60 times.
Okay. And would that be in the field of forensic serology?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at this time, I would tender Ms. Thornton as an expert in the field of forensic serology.
No objection. Okay, she's so recognized.
Ms. Thornton, will you explain to the jury how you go about testing or receiving an item of evidence for testing at the crime lab?
The evidence will first come through our evidence receiving section. We have technicians there. They then enter the case, and each item has its own, item number within that case, and the case has a specific Division of Forensic Science case number. We have barcodes on each item, and then the evidence technician will sort it in different bins in the vault, depending on what service it has. And then we have a technician in biology that will go receive the evidence for our section and bring it up to our lockers.
Were you asked to perform tests on evidence, in this case, against Franklin Gebhardt?
I was, yes.
Okay. And were you asked to perform tests to determine the presence of blood on certain items of evidence?
Yes. Thank you.
I'm going to show you what's previously been marked as State's Exhibit number 34. Are you familiar with that item?
I am, yes.
Okay. And how are you familiar with that item?
It has our GBI barcode on there, and it also has my initials on some of the evidence tape.
Okay. When you look at the contents of State's Exhibit number 34, see if you're familiar with those articles.
I am, yes.
Okay. And how are you familiar with those articles?
These are the items that I tested for blood.
Okay. And what are those items, do you recall?
There is a sheet, a pair of blue jeans, and a pair of underwear. Oh, you have the underwear, I think. Yes.
And Ms. Thornton, you were also asked to perform testing on a rock that has previously been tendered into evidence as State's Exhibit number 33. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
What kind of testing, what test do you perform to determine whether or not there's blood on a particular piece of evidence?
For a blood exam, it's we do 2 tests simultaneously, involves 3 chemicals. So typically, we can swab a stained area of the item. I use 2 swabs, put a drop of 1 chemical on the first swab, 2nd chemical on the 2nd swab, then I have the 3rd chemical. It goes on a drop on each of the swabs, and we look for a color change. It's really quick, only a few seconds. If blood is indicated to be present, the swab, one's going to turn green, one's going to turn pink. If blood is not present, there won't be a color change.
Are these known as presumptive tests?
They are, yes.
Okay. When you tested State's Exhibit number 33, the rock, were you able to form a conclusion about whether or not there was blood present?
No, the rock was inconclusive for blood.
And what would cause an item of evidence to test inconclusive?
It reacted with one of our chemicals, but not the second one. And both those chemicals do have other items, other things that can cause false positives. In something like a rock case, that if there's rust, if there's some kind of plant matter, sometimes that can actually give a false positive.
Okay. And the items in State's Exhibit number 34, you tested those items for the presence of blood, correct?
And that was the clothing and the sheets?
The clothing and the sheet and the...
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, and what were the results of your testing of those items?
All 3 of the items, the jeans, the underwear, and the sheet, all tested positive for blood.
And once you determined that those items had the presence of blood on them, what did you do next?
I took a cutting of the area that I actually tested, and that cutting is then placed on an index card. I label it with our case number, the item number that it came from, a description of it. It's got my initials. That's sealed in an envelope, and that then is put in one of our secure lockers for DNA analysis.
Ms. Thornton, I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibits number 35, 36, and 37. I should take a look at those items. And are they the cuttings from the clothing and underwear?
They are, yes.
Specifically, State's Exhibit number 35 is a cutting from the sheet. State's Exhibit number 36 is a cutting from the blue jeans. And State's Exhibit number 37 is cutting from the underwear. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I would tender State's Exhibits number 35, 36, and 37.
All right, you're admitted.
Ms. Thornton, once you've made these cuttings and the testing of these items of evidence, does that conclude your involvement in this case?
Yeah, once I issue the reports with the service, then yes, I don't have anything else to do in the case.
And Ms. Thornton, I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibits number 30, 38, 39, and 40. I should take a look at those items.
Okay.
Are you familiar with those documents?
Yes.
Okay, and how are you familiar with those?
These are the reports that I generated for the results of the testing that I did.
Okay. All right, this time we would tender State's Exhibits 38, 39, and 40.
Just as long as they don't go out with the jury at the end, y'all will find it.
You're admitted.
Okay. And again, Ms. Thornton, your testing showed inconclusive on the rock, but the presence of blood on the sheet, the jeans, and the underwear.
That's correct, yes.
That's all my questions for this one.
You may cross.
Just Ms. Thornton, you said that you used 2 different presumptive tests. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you do that every time? Every time something comes in, somebody thinks might be blood. Do you start out with those 2 presumptive tests?
Those 2 are yes. That's what we use.
Now, you said that those tests have some things that will give a false positive.
Correct.
Now, do you use two different tests because they might false positive to different things?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So basically, you're kind of covering your bases by using two.
That's what the point is, yes.
Okay. And so when you tested the jeans and the sheet and the underwear, you did those two tests, they both popped up, your color changed, you knew there was blood, correct?
Correct.
And the rock, same thing, one gave you a result, one did.
Correct.
And so based on your training, based on the crime lab's rules and everything, you had to say, well, that seems conclusive, I can't say that's blood.
Correct.
That's all I had.
May she be excused.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're free to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
I want to call Ashley Hinkle to the stand.
Please face me. Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the trial of this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat. Please state your name for the record.
Ashley Hinkle, A-S-H-L-E-Y-H-I-N-K-L-E.
Ms. Hinkle, good morning. How are you employed?
I'm employed at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation in the Forensic Biology section, located in Decatur, Georgia.
Okay. And how long have you been employed with the GBI?
It will be 12 years on July 3rd.
And in what capacity are you employed with the GBI and the crime lab?
I am employed as a forensic biologist.
Okay. And will you give the jury a little bit about your background and education?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from East Carolina University and a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from Marshall University, as well as extensive in-house training at GBI and the National Forensic Science Technology Center in Largo, Florida.
And what are your duties at the crime lab?
My duties primarily are to examine evidence for the presence of bodily fluids, such as blood, semen, or saliva. If those fluids are present, I attempt to attain a DNA profile. Then I compare that DNA profile to known samples, or samples that have been submitted from individuals who are involved in the case.
Okay. Approximately how many cases have you been asked to perform DNA analysis on?
Oh, wow. For 12 years, I've probably performed testing for 11 of those years, and I would say at least 400 services a year. So it's been quite a few, over 4,000.
Okay. Have you ever testified as an expert in the superior courts of this state?
Yes, sir.
Approximately how many times?
Approximately 130.
Okay. And you were qualified as an expert in what?
In forensic biology.
Okay. Now, at this time, I would tender Ms. Hinkle as an expert in the field of forensic biology.
She's so recognized.
Ms. Hinkle, were you asked to perform DNA analysis on items of evidence in this case?
Yes, I was.
Okay. You recall when you received those items of evidence?
I received those items of evidence in September 2017.
Okay. Typically, what would happen would be another forensic biologist would perform a test to determine whether or not there was bodily fluids on a piece of evidence, correct?
Correct.
And they would make a cutting, and then that would be sent to you for testing. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that what occurred in this case?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Ms. Hinkle, I'm going to show you what's been admitted as State's Exhibits number 35, 36, and 37. I ask you to take a look at those items. Are you familiar with those items?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. And were you asked to perform DNA analysis on those items?
I was asked to perform testing on 2 of these items. A colleague performed the testing, but I actually did the analysis.
Okay. Explain to the jury what DNA testing is.
DNA, it stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's found throughout our bodies in what's called our cells. We receive half from our mother, half from our father. No two people have the same DNA except for identical siblings, and it stays relatively the same throughout our lives. You want me to go through the actual testing procedure?
Please.
Yes. So the testing involves taking a small cutting of the biological material, placing that small piece of, whether it's blood or saliva or semen, into a tube and adding liquids that help us to release the DNA from the other biological material that's present. We use a lot of instruments, a lot of robots in our work, and there's also a robot involved in this process. The next process is to quantitate the amount of DNA that's present to see if we actually obtained DNA from the item we're looking at. Then we make copies of locations along the DNA strand. 21 locations along the DNA strand plus 3 locations that tell us gender. These copies are what we use to compare between individuals, between the unknown sample, which is the evidence, and a known sample, which is a sample collected normally it's from inside of an individual's cheek. These copies are separated on an instrument called a genetic analyzer, and from this instrument, the data is analyzed, and that is how we actually obtain the DNA profile.
Ms. Hinkle. You should take a look at State's Exhibit number 36. You were asked to perform DNA analysis on that item, which was the cutting from a pair of blue jeans belonging to the victim in this case, correct?
Yes, for this I looked at the data and interpreted the data and compared that to the reference samples from 2 individuals.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to take a look at the State's Exhibits number, what's been marked as State's Exhibits number 41 and 42. Those items.
State's Exhibit 41, yes, I am.
Okay. What about State's Exhibit number 42?
Also State's Exhibit 42, yes.
Okay. What are those items?
State's Exhibit 41 are buccal swabs, are swabs from the inside of the cheeks of Franklin Gebhardt. This is what we use as his known or reference sample.
Okay. And State's Exhibit number 42?
State's Exhibit 42, these are also buccal swabs. These are from William Morse Sr., and were used as his reference sample.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, we would tender State's Exhibits number 41 and 42. Ms. Hinkle, looking at State's Exhibit number 36, which was the cutting from the blue jeans of Timothy Coggins, were you able to obtain a DNA profile?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And did you compare that profile with State's Exhibits number 41 and 42, which were the buccal swabs of Franklin Gebhardt and William Moore?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what did your analysis conclude?
The profile was actually a partial profile, which means information is not obtained at all of the 21 locations we look at to compare between individuals. However, at the locations where information was obtained, it did not match the DNA profiles of Franklin Gebhardt or William Moore Sr.
So in essence, the blood from the cutting in State's Exhibit number 36, the cutting from the blue jeans of Timothy Coggins, did not match the DNA of Franklin Gebhardt or William Moore Sr.
Correct.
Okay. Now, Ms. Hinkle, did you prepare reports in regards to the analysis of these items?
Yes, I did.
Ms. Hinkle, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibits number 43 and 44. I ask you to take a look at those items.
Thank you. Do you mind picking this up while you're here?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Thanks. It's a little crowded. Yes, States Exhibit 43 and 44 are the reports that I prepared for this case.
Now, at this time, we would tender States Exhibits number 43 and 44.
No objection except for that they don't violate the jury at the end, yeah.
Okay, they're admitted.
Ms. Hinkle, looking at States Exhibit number 43, at the very bottom, it states in your report that based on case circumstances, the DNA profile obtained from the cutting from the genes from item 2B is not eligible for entry into the DNA database. And in parentheses, it has the acronym CODIS. What does CODIS mean?
CODIS means Combined DNA Indexing System. It's a combination of state, local, and national DNA bases that's run by the FBI and is used to compare profiles between states and the federal government.
Okay. And why was the DNA profile obtained from the cutting in States Exhibit number 36 or from the blue jeans of Timothy Coggins not eligible for entry into CODIS?
The FBI has rules regarding the use of CODIS. Most of these rules are to protect individual rights. One of these rules is we cannot put a profile in if we believe it comes from a victim, and because the pocket from the genes were covered in blood, most likely it was from the victim, so we could not enter the profile into the database.
Okay. Turning to States Exhibits number 37 and 38, which also were cuttings. Yes, 37 and 38.
Yes, sir.
Or
38.
36 and 37. Which were cuttings from the sheet and cuttings from the underwear. Is that correct?
Yes, 35 is the sheet, 37 is the underwear.
Okay, I apologize. Were you also asked to perform DNA analysis on those items as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And States Exhibit number 35, which was the sheet, were you able to obtain a DNA profile from that item?
Yes, I was, but like the genes, it was also a partial profile.
Okay. And as to States Exhibit number 37, which was the cutting from the underwear, likewise, were you asked to perform DNA analysis on that item?
Yes, I was.
And were you able to obtain a DNA profile on that item?
Yes, I was able to obtain a profile, also a partial profile.
Okay. Did you compare the profile from the cutting of the jeans to the profile from the cutting of the sheet and to the profile of the cutting of the underwear?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And were you able to make a conclusion about those items, those profiles?
Yes, sir. All of the profiles were consistent with each other for the information that was present. For the cutting from the jeans, the profile that matched the cutting from the sheet would be expected to occur approximately 1 in 1,000 individuals. That means if there are 1,000 people in a room, I would expect about one of them to also share that DNA profile. For the cutting from the underwear, the frequency for the DNA profile from the jeans, which matches a profile from the cutting from the underwear, would be expected to occur approximately 1 in 200 quadrillion individuals. And quadrillion is 15 zeros, so 200 quadrillion would be 17 zeros. It's a very large number.
And the cutting from the underwear as well, it contained a profile, and you compared it to the DNA profile from the jeans?
Yes, the jeans and the underwear, that was the 1 in 200 quadrillion results.
The sheet that you tested for DNA analysis, that sheet was used to cover the victim in the case. Were you aware of that?
I was told that, yes.
Okay. And the DNA from that sheet matched or was consistent with the DNA that was located on the victim's jeans, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you make any conclusions about the DNA from all the items that you tested?
Yes, that was the numbers I previously gave, the 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 200 quadrillion.
So can you say that the DNA from the jeans matched the DNA from the sheet and the underwear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all my questions of this one.
Any questions?
Just a couple. Ms. Hinkle, I'm not sure, that last question kind of threw me. You did not say that it matched, correct? You said that it was 1 in 1,000 for one set of DNA and 1 in 200 quadrillion. Now, that's quite a bit,
Yep.
but that's not 100% match, correct?
The information that was obtained from each item matched the information that was obtained from the other items. So all 3 items, the DNA profile that was there, they were partial, but they were matches. When we have DNA profiles, because human beings share genetic information, we have to provide a weight to that DNA profile. So we use statistics. We can't test everybody in the population, so we have to give a number. So the frequency of that genetic information would be the 1 in 1,000 or the 1 in 200 quadrillion.
So but in the beginning, there was no assumption that this blood on the jeans was the victim's blood. It was tested, and it was tested against Mr. Gebhardt and Mr. Moore. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that testing proved that that blood was not Mr. Gebhardt's and not Mr. Moore's, correct?
Correct.
Just a second. Let me ask you this. If the blood of the victim had been preserved, would it have been easier to compare all these things if you had a blood sample from the victim?
Of course, if we had a blood sample from the victim, we could have used that as his reference sample.
But you didn't have that.
No.
That's why you had to go through all the sheet and underwear and comparing all that.
Yes, sir.
I think that's all I had, John.
Ms. Hinkle, the sheet that you tested had the blood of the victim on it, correct?
Well, it had the blood. It was placed on the victim after the incident, so the assumption is it contains the blood of the victim.
Okay. So you can assume that the blood on the sheet came from the victim, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you compared the testing or the cutting from the jeans to the blood on the sheet,
Yes, sir.
and that DNA matched 1 in 200 quadrillion,
That was the 1 in
or
1,000.
1 in 1,000. So you can assume that the blood on the jeans is the blood of Timothy Coggins, correct?
That would be a reasonable assumption.
May she come down?
Just one question. Ms. Hinkle, if there were someone else's blood on the jeans and then the sheet were thrown down across someone, is it possible that that other blood could also be transferred to the sheet?
I would say it's possible, but not probable, considering the amount of blood that was present.
But you don't test all the blood, correct? You test a small cut.
It's impossible for us to test everything, yes.
You're free to go. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
James Sebastian.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the trial of this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You'll have a seat. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Jim Sebastian. It's Sebestyen.
Mr. Sebastian, how are you employed, sir?
I work for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation in the Division of Forensic Science as the Forensic Biology Manager.
Okay. And how long have you worked in the GBI?
I started working with the GBI in early 2010.
And how long have you been the manager of the forensic biology?
I was promoted to the manager in early 2017.
Okay. And Mr. Sebastian, were you contacted by agents of the GBI in regards to testing certain evidence in this case?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Did the agents describe to you what evidence they were asking to be tested?
They did.
Okay. Do you recall that?
I recall the items where the items were collected. I can't recall the entire list of items.
Did the agents indicate to you where and how the items were collected?
Yes, the items were described as recovered from a collapsed-in well or a filled-in well, and that they had been there for numerous years.
Mr. Sebastian, in regards to evidence that would be located in the well, would that hamper the GBI's testing capability of those items?
Yes, it would.
What factors would hamper the testing of those items for DNA or blood or any bodily samples?
So when testing for biological fluids or DNA, one of the challenges we face is degradation of those samples, so the breakdown of organic material or the biological material. When something is exposed to the elements, it's also exposed to bacteria or fungal organisms that will help break down that material. You think about an apple that falls from a tree and is on the ground. That breaks down over time and is not there later in the season. The same thing kind of occurs with organic materials from crime scenes if they're left out and exposed to the elements. Even though this was materials maybe in a well with dirt on top of them, you still have bacterial activity in soil. So when you combine moisture and bacteria, it's not a good thing for biological evidence.
And if evidence was located approximately 30 feet underground in a well covered by trash and burnt material, would that hamper the GBI's ability to test those items for DNA analysis?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Did the agents describe to you how they recovered the items from this well?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And what did they tell you?
The collection method was described as using a high-pressure water hose in conjunction with some type of pump that, I guess, loosens up the soil while picking up that soil and any items that are found and deposits that into a container such as like a dumpster.
Okay. Would that extraction process have any effect on the crime lab's ability to test evidence?
Yes, introducing water or kind of mixing around the samples that are present, the items that are present now can cause evidence to actually be lost, so physically removed from that evidence, or it could cause different items to come in contact that were never in contact before. Could cause bacterial growth to start again because now you've introduced more water to those items.
Would the length of time that evidence is exposed to the elements affect the crime lab's ability to test it?
Yes.
Okay. For instance, if evidence was in a well for 34 years, did that length of time affect the GBI's ability to test?
Yes, it would increase the chances that the biological evidence has broken down or degraded over that time.
Now, that's all my questions of this witness.
Especially without actually taking the piece of evidence and testing it, you have no idea if you'd be able to find anything on there or not, though, correct?
We know from experience that items of evidence that are older, that are stored properly, we sometimes have challenges obtaining full DNA profiles from. So using our experience and our knowledge about bacterial growth and being able to break down biological samples, we would not test these type of items.
Okay, but I know I've read articles about ancient tombs being opened and DNA being received from there. Is that something insane and just out of the realm of real science?
No, but think of what you just said, the way things are stored. The key term there was using that word tomb. You're talking about an enclosed-in environment that, depending on what is present, yes, there will be degradation. It'll still be challenging to obtain results. And with the testing that the GBI provides, we would not be able to do any testing.
And you used the word challenging.
Yes.
It's not impossible.
You can test any item of evidence, but the question is, what are we going to do with those results? Or are we even going to get results?
And without testing, you don't know if you would get a result, correct?
We could not predict what result we would get.
Let me ask you this. You work at the GBI in the crime lab.
Correct.
Your job is to test evidence. Your job is to make sure the evidence up there is preserved, that it's kept so that folks in a jury can see it, correct?
Correct.
Now, you helped in this case to try to locate some evidence up at the crime lab in this case, did you not? Are you involved in that process some?
I'm not too sure what you mean by locate.
Well, you understand that at some point, the agents in this case were looking for missing evidence, whether it was at Spalding County Sheriff's Office or at the crime lab.
I was not physically involved with any searching for items in storage units or anything like that.
But to your knowledge, that happened, that was done. People were searching for evidence in this case.
I have no knowledge of the search for evidence.
Okay. Let me ask you this. You are the head of forensic biology, is that correct?
Correct?
And that's mainly dealing with, for these folks, DNA or biological substances and hopefully subsequently DNA, those types of things. Is that correct?
Forensic biology focuses on detection or identifying biological fluids such as blood, semen, and saliva, and then trying to generate DNA profiles from those items.
Let me ask you this. Is it possible to sometimes develop a DNA profile or mitochondrial DNA from hair?
I've read about mitochondrial testing. I have no first-hand experience with mitochondrial testing.
I'm trying to remember, you said that it would make it difficult the way it was stored, I guess, in the ground, would make it hard to have a full DNA profile or a full sample. Is that correct? I think I understood that from you.
Yes, what I'm meaning by that is the chances of that sample breaking down are increased because it has not been collected, not been stored during that time period.
And have you looked at Ms. Hinkle's reports? You are her manager, is that correct?
I've managed the section.
You understand that the DNA profiles that were tested in this whole entire case were partial profiles, is that right?
That is correct.
They were not full profiles.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Mr. Sebastian, just so I'm clear, you were asked, or the GBI was asked to test these items recovered from the well, correct?
Yes, we were.
Okay. But based on how the items were stored in the well and the extraction process, it was determined that no testing would be done on these items.
That is correct.
You're free to go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Would the state call the next witness?
State calls Willard Sanders.
Yes, if you'll just come to me. You'll please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the trial of this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I sure do.
You'll have a seat. And please state your name for the record.
Herbert Willard Sanders.
And Mr. Sanders, do you know Franklin Gebhardt?
I sure do.
How do you know him?
I've been knowing him ever since he was about 6 years old.
Okay. Do you see him in the courtroom today?
Sitting right there.
Okay. Could you tell me something he's wearing? Something that he's wearing today?
He's wearing a suit and a goatee and a shirt and...
Okay. Back on October...
That just described all three at the table.
And he's bald-headed, too.
What now?
And he's bald-headed, too.
He's bald-headed.
And still no.
I think it'd be sufficient, Judge.
I think so, yes.
Okay. So you've known Mr. Gebhardt pretty much your all's whole life?
About 50 years, probably.
Okay. Now, back on October 9th of 1983, Mr. Sanders, did something unusual happen when you were walking down Minna Road? Did you find something unusual?
Well, me and my nephew and little brother-in-law was squirrel hunting that day. We were walking through the woods. We walked all the way around and come up on the power line, and there was a man dead laying there.
Okay. Do you remember Christopher Vaughn being with you?
I don't remember Chris being with us.
Okay. What did the body look like?
A dead body laying there.
Okay, was it decomposed?
Not real bad, no it wasn't.
Okay.
But he did have some bugs on him.
Okay. And what did you do at that point?
We went and called the sheriff's department and got them out down Middle Road.
Okay, what time were y'all squirrel hunting?
It was about 10, when we walked up on the body, it was about 10:30 that morning.
Do you remember when the sheriff's office got there?
He got there right after we called him. It took us about 15 minutes to get back to the telephone so we could call him.
Okay. After you found the body, did you have an occasion to be at the defendant's house?
I went up there about 2 weeks after that, and we were sitting there, around there drinking a beer, talking, and he brought up that we found the body on the power line. I said, yeah, me and Charles and my brother-in-law did. And he said him and Bill put him there.
What did he mean by put him there? Did he elaborate?
He said Bill killed him and he tied the chain to his feet and drug him on the power line.
Did he tell you what kind of chain it was?
He said just a log chain.
A logging chain? Do you know what Frankie Gebhardt did at that time, the defendant? What did he do?
I think about all he's ever done with pulpwood.
Okay. And is that what a logging chain is for pulpwood?
Well, you just buckle down your pulpwood, or you can buckle down a car, whatever you want to do with a log chain.
Okay. And did he say where he tied the chain to the body?
Said he tied it around his feet.
Okay. And did he say where he drug him?
He said he drug him down on the power line.
Okay. Were you familiar, or are you pretty familiar with that area off of Minor Road?
Been there ever since I've been about 10, 11 years old.
Where is that power line?
It's right there about the road comes right up through there, and then there's another road there, and it's about right in the middle of it.
So it just runs down the middle?
Yeah, and there's a road this way and a road that way, and it just runs right in the middle of it, right there around where the big oak tree used to be.
What, do you know what people used to call that big oak tree?
Mm-hmm.
What do they used to call it?
The big oak tree is all I know.
Okay. May he step down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you'll come down here with me, Mr. Sanders, I'm gonna show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 31. It's a diagram, it's gonna have a bunch of stuff on it that you don't need to know about. But where is that power line if the tree was here?
The tree's here,
Mm-hmm.
the power line would have been right down through here.
So it would have been,
Right
at the edge there.
Right in the front of the tree.
okay, you can sit down. What was the defendant's demeanor when he's telling you all of this, Mr. Sanders?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't bring it up. He's the one brought it up about finding the body and all that.
He brought up you finding the body?
Uh-huh.
What did he seem like when he's telling you that he and Bill killed this boy? I mean, is he ashamed? Is he upset?
It didn't seem like it to me, no.
Okay, did it seem like he was proud of it?
Well, he didn't have no kind of reaction much any which way you do it. I mean,
He just matter of fact told you?
yeah, he just spit it out, and that's all I know about it. I mean,
Did he ever say anything else about it?
never talked about it again. He's been to my house, I've been to his house. He never mentioned it again.
Did he tell you what Bill did to the victim?
He said he stabbed him.
Okay, did he tell you how many times?
He didn't never say about that.
Okay. Now, have you been friends with the defendant since this time?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have anything against him? Are you mad at him in any way?
Mm-mm.
What did you do with this information? What did you do with it when he told you a couple weeks after you found the body that he and Bill Moore had killed this boy? What did you do with this information?
I took it to Dean Ray.
And who is Dean Ray?
He was a narcotic agent.
You say was, he's deceased now.
Yeah, he's deceased now.
Okay. So you told Dean Ray about this a couple of weeks after you found the body?
About 3 days after Frankie told me, I run into Dean and told him.
Okay. And you don't know What happened with that information?
Nothing for what I know.
Okay.
I mean, nothing never come about it.
When was the first time an investigator came to you and did a formal interview with you?
I want to say about 8 months ago now.
And before that time, had anyone ever interviewed you about what you had heard Frankie say?
No, ma'am.
The defendant say? Okay. I don't have anything else. Oh, I'm sorry, just the field off of Minner Road, is that in Spalding County?
Ma'am?
That field off of Minner Road where the power line runs, is that off of
Yes, ma'am.
Spalding County?
Yes, ma'am, it's in Spalding County.
Okay, thank you, I don't have anything else.
You may cross.
Morning, Mr. Sanders. My name's Larkin Lee. I represent Frankie Gebhardt in this case. Nice to meet you.
You too.
You had an interview, would it have been, does May of last year sound about right?
Yeah, somewhere around that. It's been 8, 9 months ago.
Okay. And you've known Frankie most of his life?
50 years.
Okay. And Frankie has known, and was Charles Carey Jr. there with y'all the morning that you came upon this body?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you familiar that Frankie knows him and has known him for many years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and y'all hung out together over the years,
Yes, sir. We all growed up together.
even around the time, obviously, that this body was found?
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so it would not have been unusual for Frankie to know the circumstances of the crime scene because he knew the folks that were there and found the body. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he certainly could have learned it from that, right?
I don't know about that now.
But
He's the one that told me.
I understand, and I know you don't know what he knows, but he could have known any about that from other people at the crime scene, right, who found the body. He could.
He didn't know nothing from me because I didn't say nothing to him about it.
Okay, but I mean, as far as Charles Carey or any,
He might have picked up something from them.
were the Garner boys there?
No,
Okay, who exactly was there, did you say?
it was Charles Carey,
Mhm.
Manuel Saladragas, and myself.
Manuel who?
Saladragas,
Okay, so
he was my brother-in-law.
just the three
He
of
would-
y'all?
Well, they said Chris was there, but if he was, I don't remember.
You don't even remember Chris being there? Okay. Fair to say this has all been a long time ago?
It sure is.
Okay. And you said about 2 weeks after, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, you and Frankie were drinking, or,
We was drinking a beer. I went up to his house and we were drinking a beer.
and it's fair to say, you tell me if it's not, both of you like to drink beer?
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff when it's hot.
And over the years, you like to drink a lot of beer?
No, not no real bad.
Didn't drink a lot of beer over the years?
Well, we probably have drunk enough to float a battleship over the years, but we don't drink. I mean, it ain't that much every day.
Did you get drunk? You didn't never get
Not
drunk?
it was about 10 o'clock in the morning.
I understand that. I didn't say you were, but you were drinking beer at that time.
Yeah, we were drinking a beer at that time.
Frankie drink a lot of beer?
He has.
Okay. Frankie talk a lot when he's drunk?
Not no whole lot, no.
Okay. So if anybody said that, they'd be mistaken. Your experience was Frankie didn't talk a lot.
Didn't talk no whole lot, no.
Just a quiet, reserved fella?
Sure was.
Okay. And 2 weeks later, y'all were drinking beer. Frankie told you this, and you gave a statement to Agent Coleman regarding what he told you that day, right?
Mm-mm.
You didn't tell Agent Coleman what Frankie told you.
Not that day, no.
In May of 2017, when Agent Coleman interviewed...
I did that day, yes, but not the day me and Frankie was talking, no. I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry, maybe I'm not clear. When he interviewed you in May of 2017, you told Agent Coleman what Frankie told you that day, right?
The same thing I just told y'all.
Same thing. Do you remember telling Agent Coleman that Frankie told you there was a drug deal?
I thought it was about drugs, but I found out different.
Who'd you find out different from?
from Agent Coleman.
He told you it wasn't what you thought it was?
It wasn't about no drugs. It was about a white woman and a black man.
So you understood it to be about drugs?
That's what I thought it was about to start with, yes.
Because that's what Frankie told you.
No, Frankie didn't tell me that neither.
Did you tell Agent Coleman that that's what Frankie told you? That it was
I
a
may
drug deal?
have told him that, yeah.
Okay, so that's what you understood it to be, was a drug deal,
Was a
right?
drug deal went wrong.
And so Agent Coleman explained to you that it wasn't about drugs, that you was wrong, that it was about a white girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you recall telling Agent Coleman that Frankie told you that they met this black man at the Big Oak Tree?
I don't know where they met him at.
Do you recall telling Agent Coleman that Frankie told you that they met him at the Big Oak Tree?
I might have said that, but I think he told me that they took him to the Big Oak Tree.
Okay, so in further reflection on what you said, you now think that they may have took him to the Big Oak Tree?
I think so,
Did
yeah.
Agent Coleman explain to you that, or did you?
Mm-mm.
Okay, he didn't tell you that?
I know.
Okay. He just told you what it was about, that it was different from what Frankie told you, right?
No.
Okay. And that was the only time, that one time, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks after y'all found this body, that Frankie mentioned this to you in the rest of the years that you've known him?
That's right.
Okay, not a word said since.
Nothing.
And y'all hung out together many, many times over the last 30 or so years, is that correct?
He helped me clean my 2 acres up down yonder.
Okay. And again,
Nothing.
that was the sole conversation.
That was all about it.
Okay, when Frankie was drinking, sometime in October or November of 1983, that was
Yes,
the
sir.
conversation. Okay,
That's the only time I've heard anything about it.
and both of you were drinking?
Yeah.
Okay. Back to that in a minute. I believe that's all the questions I have, thank you.
Can you redirect?
Yes, Judge, briefly. You said drinking, but were you drunk?
No, we hadn't drunk, but that was the first beer that morning.
When the defendant told you this about what he and Bill Moore had done, were you surprised?
It kind of surprised me a little bit.
Okay. What'd you think about it?
I just thought to myself, why?
You mean, why would they do it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Okay. You may come down.
Your Honor,
Thank
if I could, I've got
you. One more, okay.
And now, in 2018, your memory of the conversation is that you were in the midst of drinking your first beer of the day.
Yes, sir.
Not your second,
No, sir.
sure wasn't your third.
No, sir, it was the
Asked
first
and-
one.
Asked and answered. Your excuse,
That's all
sir.
the questions I have.
You may come down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
Call Terry Reed.
Sir, if you'll come towards me, please. And raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the trial of this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir. Help you God.
Yes, sir.
You'll have a seat. And please state your name for the record.
Terry Reed.
Mr. Reed, you're currently incarcerated at Spalding County Jail, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What are you incarcerated for, sir? What are you in jail for?
Change address probation,
Okay, violation of probation?
technical violation.
Back in 2017, were you incarcerated with the defendant, Franklin Gebhardt?
Yes, sir.
You see him here in court today?
Yes, sir. Send over
Can you describe what he's wearing?
black suit, white shirt, sitting at the end of the table.
Let the record reflect he's identified the defendant. Did you and Frankie become friends while you were incarcerated?
Yeah, we was in housing unit 1. Both of us was like the Don Marley.
You're going to have to sit up and speak clearly
We was
into the
like
microphone.
we was like the Don Marleys in the same cell, housing unit 1. We passed the food out and clean up.
So y'all were the orderlies for the dorm, the housing unit?
Right.
And what were some of y'all's duties?
To pass out the trays and clean up.
Okay. Did y'all become friends?
Yeah.
Okay. Did y'all ever play cards together?
He didn't play cards, but we talked.
Okay. Did Frankie ever talk to you about a murder that took place in 1983?
It was like it came on TV, on the news, but they was opening it back up. And me and him was in his room, and they said, Frank, you on TV. And we went out there, but it went off. So I said, well, it'll be back on. And when it came back, we went out there sat at the table. Sorry about that, my cousin. I mean, nothing against him, nothing like that now. When he came back home, we sat there. He was in that day, but then they went out to his house. And they took some stuff out there. They got 60-something out of the house. He said they won't get no DNA off of none of them. He said I used to burn trash in the well and throw it in there.
He threw what in the well?
He threw a knife in the well.
Okay. So, just to make sure I'm clear, there was a news story on the TV
Right.
while y'all were in the jail cell together.
Right.
Okay. And it showed agents, GBI agents, searching the residence or the property of Mr. Gebhardt?
Right.
Okay. And what did Mr. Gebhardt say again?
But they had sworn me. He said they would look for DNA. He said they won't get no DNA off now one of them now. He said I used to burn trash in the well. Throw the knife in it. At the time, I think supposed to build a little barn on top of the well. They didn't know it. They took the door off the shed and everything. But the well was up under the shed.
You have any problems with Mr. Gebhardt?
Huh?
You mad at him for any reason?
No. God got to take care of it.
Mr. Reed, have I promised you or my office promised you anything to get you to come here and testify today?
No.
That's all my question.
Red Cross?
Mr. Reed, you remember giving an interview with the GBI agent
Yes, sir.
before on this?
Yes, sir.
And you called your sister.
I called two of my sisters. I called my oldest sister first.
Okay.
She called the GBI and they said they couldn't send nobody. Said they couldn't send them out there unless the judge sent them out there.
Okay.
And
Come close to the microphone and speak up.
I called my oldest sister when I told her to call the GBI. Tell them to come out there. I want to talk to them about this cold case.
Mm-hmm.
She called. And she said they couldn't come out there unless the judge sent them out.
Just let me limit you to what I'm asking you. You called your sister about passing along that you wanted to talk about this case, right?
To the GBI, yeah, I called two of my sisters.
Right. And because it helps you, right? If you help the state, it helps you, right?
No, it don't help me.
It don't help you at all.
It don't help me. I did my crime. I got to do my time.
Okay.
I don't look for nobody to do my time. Me, I'm a man up of mine.
Okay. And so you wouldn't have any reason, you just doing this as a good citizen of Spalding County, right?
I mean, right, wrong, or wrong.
Mhm.
You know, I did my crime. I'm paying for mine. Everybody, if you do it, pay for it.
Right. So,
You know,
so again,
I ain't asking nobody to do nothing for me for doing this here.
right. So
I'm doing this out of free will.
So you don't expect or ask anything.
No, I ain't
just-
asking for nothing.
You just relieving a burden, right?
Right.
Okay. And you remember, again, talking to Agent Coleman some time back, do you not?
Yes, sir.
He come out there to the jail and interviewed
Right.
you, right?
Right.
And would it have been about September 22nd of last year? Does that sound about right?
Up like from January to November. Yeah, something like that.
And you remember telling him that you was card playing buddies with Franklin Gebhardt?
He didn't play. He played, but we didn't play together. We played card.
Do you remember saying that you became a card playing buddies with Franklin Gebhardt?
They weren't playing card buddies.
Okay, so you didn't say that's the answer to the question, is that right?
I did not say card playing buddies.
Okay. And So Mr. Gebhardt told you, the sum total of what he told you was that they had taken some knives,
61 knives.
61 knives,
He said they wasn't gonna get no DNA off of that.
okay?
He said they were gonna have to bring all them back to his house,
Right. And you might not get any DNA off of them.
off of them. Because the one that he
Right.
used, he threw it in the well where you burn trash. There's a
Okay.
barn built on top of the well.
And it was 60 knives when you talked to Agent Coleman, is that correct?
61 knives.
61 when you talked to him, right? And you said Frankie also, was anybody else in the jail talking about this, by the way?
Everybody in the cell talks about it.
Everybody in the cell was talking about it.
But I don't listen to what they say. I'm listening to what come out his mouth.
And everybody in the cell was listening to, I mean, he come on the
They
news. didn't
listen to the news, yeah. They listen to the news every time he missed it. They would come tell him, you on the news, you on the news.
So the inmates at the Spalding County Jail had access to the information about this case because of talking to each other and watching the news.
Right. They watch the news. But, you know, I mean, it just, when I said it, things was said, that he said,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
I
I
understand
can't
what
go
you're
to
saying.
that.
Would it be your experience that a lot of them inmates, has it been your experience as an inmate that they will use this as a get out of jail free card?
Yeah,
And folks will do that out there, won't they?
yeah.
They see it on the news. They see it as a chance to shorten up their sentence, don't they?
Right.
You also said, when you talked to Agent Coleman, that one of them guards was passing information.
Yes, I did.
Uh-huh.
I identified his picture.
And you showed him his picture, right? And said he was passing
Every
along.
time he had told Frank, I got something to tell you about you and your co-defendant. Every time he told Frank, I got something to tell you about you and your co-defendant. Every time he found out something that was going on, he'd come back to him.
So you had inmates out there talking about the case, and you had officers out there
Also,
talking
right,
about
every
the
time he
case.
come
Is
to
that
work,
correct?
right.
And was this an officer that had disciplined you, removed you from a work detail?
That was before.
Right,
That was
before
good.
all this happened.
No, that was after he did this. This was after.
This was
I was
after.
I was on trustee. This was after he had did all this stuff.
Officer, there was an event where the officer removed you from a work detail, and there was an event where you talked to Frank.
That was after the fact that I talked to Frank when we talked.
Then he removed you.
Then he removed me off of D-Ride.
It was after that he
Right.
removed you from the work detail.
Right.
After you.
And I know what it was
Listen to
about.
my question first. After
I'm going to check if he'll let
And
this answer.
Tell us which happened in what order.
That happened first by Frank. Then the officer removed me off a trustee job.
Okay. And why did he remove you off the trustee job? Was it for hoarding pills?
That's what he said, but I never did use the drawer that they took me in the room. I cleaned it out, put my stuff in, I closed that drawer. I never had to go back in it while I was on trustee because I had all my soap, all my tire, all my clothes hanging on the wall. I had no reason to go in the drawer, so I closed it up and never went in it.
So the guards and officers are passing information and lying about you, right?
They did.
Okay.
I mean, it happened, you know.
And Mr. Reed, you also said that, did you not, when you were interviewed by Agent Coleman, that Frankie told you that they had cut off the man's penis and put it in his mouth?
He was stabbed multiple times, and they left him in the field.
Say it again.
He was stabbed multiple times, and they left him in the field.
Mr. Reed, please answer yes or no. Did you tell Agent Coleman that Frankie Gebhardt told you that they cut the man's penis off and put it in his mouth?
No disrespect, I can't let you put words in my mouth.
And then the answer
I
would
won't.
be no.
I will not sit here and let you put words in my mouth. I'm telling you what I said. I can't do it, tell you the truth.
Yeah, what did you tell Agent Coleman?
He stabbed the man multiple times, and they left him in a field.
Okay.
I can't put red in my mouth. That about cutting the penis off and all that, that was on the news.
That was on the news, is that correct?
All that was on the news.
And so the answer to the question is you didn't say nothing about that to Agent Coleman. Is that what you're telling me?
Sir, I just explained that to you.
Your Honor.
Let me ask you, did you tell Agent Coleman that Frankie told you that
That they stabbed him multiple times and they left him in the field.
did you tell him that he cut his penis off?
I don't know who cut his penis off and put it in his mouth. He stabbed him multiple times, they stabbed him multiple times, and they left him in the field. Who cut the penis off and all that, I can't tell you.
And you didn't tell Agent Coleman anything about, did you tell Agent Coleman anything about that?
That came up, but I didn't say he did. I wasn't there. I can't say he did. I can't say who did.
Did you talk to Agent Coleman about that?
Yeah, I can't say who did it.
Yes or no, did you talk to
I
Agent
talked to him. I
about
talked
that?
to the agent.
Okay. We'll see what Agent Coleman has to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I believe that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Okay, sir, you're free to go. Thank you. Let's call your next witness, please.
Jonathan Bennett.
So, you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the trial of this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay, please sit down. You'll speak into that middle microphone and state your name for the record.
Jonathan Hunter Bennett.
Mr. Bennett, do you know Franklin Gebhardt?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you know him?
From, him and my mom grew up together. Childhood friends.
All right. Do you see him in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you point him out by something he's wearing?
He's sitting over there wearing a black suit
Okay, what part of the table?
all the way to the far end.
Okay. Now, Mr. Bennett, have you ever had an occasion to hear the defendant say anything about a killing that happened back in 1983?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what did he say to you?
He was up at mine and my daddy's house having a little cookout, and he was kind of sounded like he was bragging about it.
Okay, what did he say?
Said that him and William Moore had done it back whenever I wasn't born back then, but said that they had done it back when it was supposed to have happened. I just overheard him and my daddy talking.
Okay. Did he tell you why?
No, ma'am.
All right. Do you remember another time when you were riding in a truck? Or I'm sorry, that he told you he was riding in a truck in Cary's Mobile Home Park? Do you remember him telling you that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, what did he say about that?
He said that William Moore stabbed him 38 times, and then he tied him to the back of the truck and drug him down the road.
Who drove him down the road?
Him and William Moore.
Okay. So, do you remember telling the agent that both of them stabbed him?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And who tied him to the back of the truck? Both of them?
I've always heard that Frankie did.
That he's always told you he tied him to the back of the truck?
Yes,
Your
yes,
Honor, I'm
ma'am.
going to object, that's leading, the young man said he'd always heard, who told him.
It's asked and answered, but let's try not to lead.
Yes, sir. When did he tell you, when's the last time he talked about this with you?
Just that one time, up at Daddy's that one time.
Okay, and when was that?
It was 3 or 4 years, in between 3 to 4 years ago, I would say.
Okay. You're currently incarcerated. All right. What's that for?
Terroristic threats.
Okay. Have you gotten any promises from the DA's office about what might happen with that case?
No, no.
Okay. And this conversation that happened with the defendant, that happened before you were in jail?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I don't have anything else.
Any cross?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Bennett, has the DA's office or anybody in the state promised you anything or told you anything benefit that you might get out of this?
No, sir, Mr. Lee.
Okay. And, or would you're expecting one, I guess, is that correct?
Not really, you know.
You would like one, how
Yes,
about
sir.
that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you figure if you do a good job, then they'll reward you for it, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you remember being interviewed by Agent Coleman over here, is that correct?
No, sir. It was Lieutenant Morrison.
Was it, okay. Lieutenant Morris, Agent Coleman, was he there?
Yes, sir. He was there.
Okay. So he was part of the interview?
Yeah, I see him. I see him sitting there now. I didn't see him.
Or Mike Morris, who's sitting right back here?
Yes, I see both of them now. Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you remember that, right?
Yes, sir.
And you remember telling them that Frankie told you that that he and Bill were riding around? And that's the reason this happened? And they were riding around and heard somebody being raped?
That's what my daddy had said.
Do you remember telling Agent Coleman that that's what Frankie told you?
No, sir, not in my recollection.
Okay. So, anything you knew about anything like that, you heard from somebody else?
Yes, sir.
And it's fair to say that that's how most of this was rumors, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you growing up, you knew this case to be rumors in the community.
Yes, sir.
And you heard 40 or 50 people talk about this case over the years of your life, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And everybody got their own detail as to what happened and
Yes, sir.
why it happened, is that right? Okay. And Frankie was a heavy drinker, would that be fair to say?
I've never known Frankie to be a heavy drinker.
Okay.
You know, every time I've ever been around him, drank 2 or 3 beers. You know,
Okay.
I've never known him to be a heavy drinker.
Well, Jonathan, how old are you?
I'm 23.
Okay. So Frankie's a pretty good bit older than you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so your experience with Frankie's been a lot less than other folks that have known him for a lot longer, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But Frankie did drink. He
Yes,
was no stranger to it. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so when did you say, and I apologize if I missed it, when this first conversation was? When this conversation, I think you just said it was once?
Yeah. When we was having a cookout up at my daddy's house,
Okay.
and Frankie come over. That was in between 3 to 4 years ago.
Okay. And you didn't think, go to the law, anything like that then, did you?
No, sir.
All right. Is that because you really don't necessarily believe Frankie's, everything that comes out of his mouth?
Objection, that's gonna go.
Sustain. Sustain, next question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how to reword it. Yeah. Why did you not?
I mean, I've always, me and Frankie, I've never been around him that much, but me and Frankie, when he was around, we was good friends, just
Right.
hanging out at Daddy's, and like you said a while ago, everything I've heard was from,
Objection, hearsay, everything he's heard.
Well, I didn't think he was going to say the substance of it. In general,
Well, I think it was coming, so
Okay,
let's pose another question.
that's fair enough. Is it fair to say that the first time you told this is when you were locked up in jail?
no, sir,
Okay. Who did you tell it to prior to that?
Lieutenant Morrison.
Okay, you told it to him prior to you being locked up.
Yes, sir. He come out to my house one day and got me.
When was that?
Just roughly probably 8 months ago, 8, 9 months ago, I would say, roughly.
Okay. So you didn't have any charges or anything back then?
I had charges pending, but I wasn't locked up. I was out.
You had pending charges?
Yes,
Thank you, that's all the questions I got.
May he come down?
You said Mr. Lee, do you know Mr. Larkin Lee?
yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
Me and Mr. Brown, Virgil Brown, I've used him before, their office before.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Okay, you may come down. Thank you, sir. Just call your next witness, please.
I would call Patrick Douglas.
Sir, if you will face me and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the trial of this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
You will have a seat, please. If you'll speak into that middle microphone and state your name for the record.
Name's Patrick John Douglas.
Mr. Douglas, you're currently incarcerated at Spalding County Jail, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Why are you incarcerated?
Violation of probation.
Are you affiliated with any white supremacy groups?
Yes, sir, I am.
And which group would that be?
The Aryan Brotherhood.
Were you incarcerated in the Spalding County Jail back in 2017?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you incarcerated at that time with Franklin Gebhardt?
I was.
Do you see him here in court today?
Yes, sir.
Can you identify him?
Man right there.
Can you state something that he's wearing?
A blue shirt, goatee.
Let the record reflect he's identified the defendant. Now, while you were incarcerated back last year at the Spalding County Jail, did you have any special duties at the jail?
Yes, sir. I was a houseman, a trustee.
A houseman and a trustee.
Yes, sir.
What were some of your duties as a houseman at the Spalding County Jail?
I was a barber. I helped get out all supplies, all the cleaning supplies, and brought back up, make sure everything was accounted for.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to come into contact with Frankie Gebhardt?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. What was the first time you had contact with Mr. Gebhardt?
I was cutting hair, and he was let out for his hour out for medical. I was assigned to cut his hair.
Okay. Did he talk to you at that time?
He did.
What did he say?
Mostly just chit-chat and whatnot.
Okay. After that first time, did you ever have any more conversations with Mr. Gebhardt?
Yes, sir, numerous.
Okay. When was the next time that you had a conversation with Mr. Gebhardt?
It was the next day.
Okay.
I believe so.
And what did he say the next day?
We was just down there talking about the sheriff and whatnot, and he got a little irate about the sheriff.
Okay. Mr. Gebhardt got irate about Sheriff Dix?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think Frankie came and talked to you?
Probably because of my tattoos and whatnot.
Okay. What kind of tattoos do you have?
A lot of white supremacist tattoos.
Why do you think that the fact that you had white supremacy tattoos on your body made Frankie want to come talk to you?
He told me.
I'm not going to object to this point. This is speculation. Mr. Douglas has no idea why Mr. Gebhardt may want to speak to him, maybe even alone with him.
Assistant.
During this second conversation with Mr. Gebhardt, what did he tell you?
He stated to me that he was a part of the Ku Klux Klan.
Do you think that's why he felt comfortable talking to you?
I do.
Ku Klux Klan being another white supremacist group?
Yes, sir. It's also part of the Aryan Brotherhood.
Okay. What did he tell you?
He was just mad. He said, how could Sheriff Dix get away with killing a nigger and he couldn't?
Did you and Mr. Gebhardt continue to have conversations while y'all were incarcerated?
We did.
Okay. What did y'all talk about?
Just this and that, sheriff, a little bit about his case. He told me he wasn't too much worried about him, that they didn't have no DNA. The only DNA they had was on a Jack Daniels bottle, and it wasn't his.
Did anybody ever tell you that a Jack Daniels bottle had been located at the crime scene?
No, sir.
Had you seen any kind of news media about a Jack Daniels bottle being found at the crime scene?
No, sir.
But Mr. Gebhardt told you that the state wouldn't find any DNA on a liquor bottle found at the crime scene.
Correct.
Okay. What else did Mr. Gebhardt tell you?
over numerous conversations, he stated that I'd gotten to an altercation with a couple black guys. And afterwards, I popped off to him, and he stated
Popped
that
off to who?
Frankie Gebhardt.
What did you say?
I told him I didn't need people to help me do what I had to do. At that time, he stated that he didn't have no help doing what he had to do in the Coggins case also.
Did he say the Coggins case? What was his exact word?
No, he said he didn't need no help killing that nigger, that he was the one that slammed him down and stabbed him in the back.
Did he ever talk to you about why he killed Timothy Coggins?
No, sir. Just that he hated niggers in general.
Did he ever talk to you about what he did with the knife?
I know that night it was either him or Bill got cut.
Okay.
And they stated that his sister had helped patch one of them up. I don't know which one, if it was him or Bill, but that was all that was stated.
When Frankie was talking to you about his case, how did he come across to you?
Not remorseful at all. Hateful.
Did it appear that he was bragging about it?
Seemed he was excited when he done it.
Mr. Douglas, did Frankie ever talk to you about a white man and or a black man and a white woman?
He
being
did.
that, what did he say?
Stated that he had to rescue some girl named Debbie from a nigger once before because of I can't think of the name's Charles. His name was Charles, I believe.
Okay. But he never talked to you about why he killed Timothy Coggins?
No, sir.
That's all my question.
May I cross?
Yes, sir. Douglas, the district attorney didn't go very far into your past history. He said you were in jail for violation of probation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But you've been convicted in this very judicial circuit of possession of methamphetamine. Is that correct? Back in 2010?
Correct.
And then subsequent to that, in 2013, for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon?
Correct.
And in fact, your nickname around the jail is Trouble, right? Is that what people were calling you, Trouble?
Correct.
You have that tattooed somewhere?
I do.
That's what they call it. And one of your tattoos is SS lightning bolts, isn't it?
They are.
And the SS lightning bolts, that's the old symbol for the German SS during World War II, right? Nazis.
They are.
But for you described to Agent Coleman at the jail when he interviewed you about how they were special to the Aryan Brotherhood, correct?
They are.
And how you have to earn those, right?
Correct.
And you explained to them you had to earn those by doing an act of violence, correct?
Correct.
Against somebody of color, correct?
Correct.
And you earned yours, right? You got your SS. I mean, I noticed they put you in a long sleeve shirt so we wouldn't see all the Nazi tattoos, but you have.
I do.
And you said that Frankie, he just hated black folks, right?
In general.
But did you ever see him hanging around with Terry Reed at the jail?
No, sir.
Play cards with any of the black inmates? Sit around and talk with them any?
I did.
So he would sit around and talk with them some.
Some.
Did he go out of his way to get into altercations with the black inmates, fight with them, or do anything crazy like that?
On a few occasions he had.
And you said that he never gave you any reasoning behind this supposed killing, is that right?
Correct.
And you said at one point the statement was he was angry about the sheriff, had done something in his past, he got away with it, why ain't I getting away with it, basically?
Correct.
Kind of statement. As far as you know, the statement or you don't know if Frankie's in the KKK or not, correct? You just know he said he was.
He told me he was.
Or he said he told you he was.
Correct.
You said that Frankie had mentioned DNA on a Jack Daniels bottle. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I think the DA asked you if that had been, if you had seen anything on the news or anything like that about a Jack Daniels bottle.
Correct.
Now, you wouldn't be privy to any conversations that Mr. Gebhardt had with his attorneys preparing for this case, whether or not we had gone over any of the evidence with him prior to your conversation with him. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you wouldn't know exactly how Mr. Gebhardt found out about that bottle?
Just that he told me.
Just that he told you about it?
Correct.
And you wouldn't have any idea if back in the 80s any of the folks told Mr. Gebhardt that there was a bottle present at the crime scene. Is that right?
I only know what Mr. Gebhardt told me.
Just what he told you? That's all the question.
Mr. Douglas, is it fair to say you don't want to be here today?
Correct.
Is it fair to say you don't like testifying against someone that's in the Aryan Brotherhood?
Correct.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. There's been no testimony whatsoever that Mr. Gebhardt's in the Aryan Brotherhood.
Yes, there has.
Mr. Douglas, have I promised you or my office promised you anything to get you to come testify here today?
No, sir. I just want a clear conscience.
Now, going back to your duties as houseman at the jail, were you also in charge of pairing up cellmates?
I was.
Did Mr. Gebhardt ever come to you and make a request about his cellmate?
He did.
Okay, what exactly did he ask or tell you?
There was just a couple guys in there he knew were trying to tell on him, and he asked that they be his roommates. And when I asked him why, he told me that he was going to tell each one of them a different story. So that way when it all come back to him, they'd all have a different story to tell.
No further question.
Any further cross?
Did you have access to you said you're a houseman in a certain area.
Yes, sir.
Did you have access to other inmates in the area because you were the houseman, basically going around to other individuals?
I had access to everybody in my pod,
Okay, how many people is that?
roughly about 50.
Okay. And all of y'all had access to the television to see the news, to see
Yes.
what was going on with the case? If something came up about Frankie's case on the news, y'all were able to see it, is that right?
Correct.
That's all we have.
Okay, you may come down. Thank you, sir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a lunch break at this time. During this recess, please do not discuss the case with anyone, with each other, and we'll see you back in approximately an hour. If you'll step into the jury room, please. We're not, ladies and gentlemen, we're not in recess yet, just the jury. Let me ask the DA how we are on schedule. Ahead of schedule, okay. How about how many more witnesses does the state anticipate?
At least 3, Judge, and they're going to be fairly long witnesses.
Okay. Today. You think the state may rest this week?
Potentially, Judge.
Okay, good. We'll take a recess for an hour then.
Your Honor, could I also inquire in I guess I'm trying to need to schedule a few of my witnesses too. Is there any anticipation of when?
Might get to them tomorrow.
And that's what I wanted to know.
If you could have 1 or 2 witnesses ready for late tomorrow afternoon,
Okay.
be good. All right. Okay, thank you. We'll take an hour lunch break.